Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order for the Bennington Select Board for Monday, November 10th, 2014. Would you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start our meeting tonight, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for Tim Corcoran, our town clerk who passed away, and offer condolences from the entire board to the family. So if you just give us a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. I'm going to rearrange the schedule tonight because we have a board member that has to leave early. So I'm going to skip down to number 6 for the appointment of the town clerk. I will entertain a motion for...
So moved.
I move that we appoint Cassandra Barbeau to the position of town clerk.
I'll
second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I know it was Tim's wishes that this is what we do, so...
I think it's appropriate, though, that we each comment on it. We're very fortunate to have such a strong support staff that Tim, over the years, has created, and Cassie is probably one of the shining stars of that effort. You're really special to our community, and we look forward to working with you over the many coming years.
And I agree with Tom. I think the appointment is well-deserved, and it's a credit to Tim and a credit to you.
Cassie, you know, as much as I was in the office almost every day, among the last phone calls that I had with Timmy, he said, you know, I hope you'll appoint her. I said, of course I will. He had absolute tremendous respect and belief in your abilities, and could be no other way.
But he did call her on election day to see how things
Yeah,
were
he
going. As we knew he would do. He didn't let us down. So with those comments, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And I believe we have a document to sign, Stu? Or is that for now or for later?
Actually, you can sign it, yes, now. I'll circulate it.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Kevin.
Congratulations.
You're very welcome. Okay. Moving on to the next item, we have the minutes from October 27th. No, tonight.
So moved.
I'll second those.
Okay. Is there any discussion, corrections, or anything on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's also unanimous. Next item on the agenda are the warrants. Tom, do you have any questions on the warrants tonight?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Michael?
Stu, page 2, item 308159, RBC gearbox, 21,753.
Yeah, that's it's one of the gearboxes for we have 32 rotating biological compactors at the wastewater treatment facility. If you recall back when the budget was being developed, we're in the process of trying to replace those gearboxes on a continuing basis.
And on page 7, 308215, an extrication tool for $4,500. I've been in situations where I've often wanted an extrication tool, so.
Yes, I can understand that. This is obviously for the fire department. Their new vehicle, if you saw the vehicle, all of the extrication equipment is located at the front of the vehicle on the front bumper, I believe. And this is to upgrade one of the pieces of equipment that we have. have. It was planned.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim,
Nothing.
anything? Justin?
I don't.
Okay. Stu, I just have one, and it's on page 3, the very last item, Timock wastewater service.
Yes. Clean cell 1 of the primary digester.
Okay, so this wastewater, okay.
Yeah, that was, the digesters really hadn't been cleaned in probably 15 to 20 years. So this was a very expensive operation, but we felt that it was time to do so.
Okay. That's all I have then. Do we have any citizens in the audience this evening that would like to address something that's not on our agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will move on to the Western New England Greenway presentation.
I don't see the gentleman here tonight.
Good presentation. That was brief.
Okay, well, let's skip down to the manager's report and maybe he'll show up.
Thank you, Sharon. You will note in the action items, there was a memorandum from the Board of Listers that requires board concurrence and signature. It's an indication that there are no appeals pending on the grand lists 2011, 12, and 13. And the listers have already signed the document. I will circulate it for board signature should you desire.
Okay.
I have two other items. One is a new liquor license that we didn't have a chance to get it on the agenda. There are two places to sign if you are willing to do so. It's Catamount Glass is applying for a first-class license. I think you might have read in their in the story in the banner, or I think it might have also been Herald, about the fact that they're going to be doing some serving of wines and liquors, some tasting experiences at their County Street address. So I will also circulate that for signature. And there are 2 pages that you need to sign.
Okay.
And then the last thing I have is we were quite surprised to find out that 2 of the tax sale properties which we acquired, the 2 single-family dwellings, were still occupied by the owners. Somehow they didn't realize that after a year they were not to be there. So we're faced now with a situation where we are either going to have to pursue formal eviction or a negotiated eviction with both owners. And so I'm suggesting that we may want to put the bid process on hold. We have a number of parties interested in those 2 single-family dwellings. We can show them because the owners seem to be cooperating, but unfortunately they are there, as are their belongings and pets in some cases.
But they don't want to move, huh?
Well, they'll move eventually, but they thought they had more time.
Will that hold up the entire sale, or are we just going to hold on those 2 properties?
Well, there will be one property that we can show and move forward with that sale. That property is vacant, and we will do that, but this does complicate the issue and going to mean an outlay of more funds on our part.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right. Just sign these 2 things. Do we have the gentleman here for the Greenway project? Okay. Sir, do you want to come up and tell us a little bit about the Western New England project? You can go right to that microphone right there if you would, please.
Thank you. Put my graphics here. Hang them up. Maybe you can just pass it.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce.
Down the line. My name is Bruce Lehrman. I live in North Bennington. I'm a member of the Western New England Greenway Committee. This group got together about 4 years ago. Actually, we've held each of our annual conferences here in Bennington at the museum. And we're working on a project that's being sponsored and supported by the National Heritage programs, the Upper Housatonic and Lake Champlain Valley programs. And we're a group who are defining and have laid out a line on a map that is the Western New England Greenway. It runs from the Canadian border in Vermont to Norwalk, Connecticut, where it joins up with the East Coast Greenway, which can take you to New York. So you can, if you want to, and you have 10 days to spare, you can ride a bicycle all the way from New York City to Montreal on the greenways. These are not off-road paths. They use public roads, and it's, as I say, it's a line on a map right now that runs this entire 450-mile distance. The project is seeking status as a U.S. bike route. The U.S. bike route system is a national system of bicycle routes that are being developed by the Adventure Cycling Association and the American Association of State Highway Transportation Organizations. This is a pseudo-governmental organization that coordinates activities among states. They're laying out a national bicycle route system aimed at bicycle tourists, people who want to go out on their bicycles and ride in the country from point to point. Particularly in our area, our long-term goal is to have them visiting all of the historic and heritage sites that are along the way. This route has a wealth of sites and historical markers and that sort of thing that cyclists are interested in visiting. I should point out that these are people who do bicycle tourism. They're doing 40 or 50 miles a day on their bicycles. They're not trying to do 100 miles a day. They're in no way a competitive event of any kind. They're people who are out enjoying themselves and visiting local sites. They need a place to stay about every 40 or 50 miles. They need a place to eat about every 10 miles. So they bring a lot of revenue to local businesses along the route. I've ridden this route twice with the Western New England Greenway Committee, once south to north, once north to south. I think we each figured we spent somewhere between $700 and $1,000 between lodging and food. We tend to eat pretty well when we're on this trip, but so the prices go up a little bit. But that gives you an idea of the impact this kind of tourism can bring to us. And the purpose of my visit here is to seek your support for getting this route designated as part of this U.S. bike route system. It's already been proposed and it appears on the national route map as proposed U.S. Bike Route 7. And though we make very little use of Route 7 itself, we're mostly on secondary roads that are more interesting and scenic for the travelers. We generally follow the Route 7 corridor from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont. In order to get this designation, we have to have a defined route, and we have defined the route, and we have cue sheets that will give you turn-by-turn instructions for following it all along the route. And we need letters of support from every administrative authority for every segment of road that we ride on. This is done state by state, so we actually submit our application through the state of Vermont. And the Vermont Bicycle Pedestrian Coordinator will make the application. But we have to supply them with all the paperwork. So I'm a volunteer who's currently out going to select boards and seeking your support. Pownell, Arlington, and Shaftesbury have already been visited, and they've already given their support for this project. And so I'm here tonight hoping that you will support the project as well. Supporting the project means sending a letter of support to the Vermont State Bicycle Coordinator. In the packet I hope you received, there's a model of it, or I have another model of template for it if that would be of help to you in drafting a letter of support. So are there any questions I can answer for you? Yes.
This is near and dear to my heart, the two-wheel mode of moving. What about signage, Bruce? Will there be some increased signage? I know that's an issue.
There will be signage. The Western New England Greenway project will supply the signs. We ask in your letter of support that you indicate that it's all right for us to post these signs on existing signposts along the route. But there'll be no cost to the town for the signs or for their maintenance. If there's a sign down, you report to us, we'll replace it. It'll probably be a couple of years before we've raised the money for the signage. That's the most expensive part of the project. But we are asking in the letter of support that you would indicate that that would be all right within the town of Bennington. But there will be signs, again, there's a sample of them in the packet, or it should be, that shows what they'll look like. I don't see mine here right now, but I'll be happy to provide one if you like.
When do you expect the application process to be finished and the application approved to designate the route as a bicycle route?
We're hoping to complete the application, to submit our application in the spring and then have it approved in the fall. So I would expect that next September's meeting of AASHTO will be the approval cycle. I'm working, the volunteer working on the letters of support up to Fairhaven. At that point, we join Lake Champlain Bikeway, which has already been approved, and it already has state approval, and they've agreed that the letters of support that were originally submitted for the bikeway will be adequate for this. So it's just the southern half of the state that we have to cover.
How many of these routes are currently available in the state of Vermont right now? There's more that I'm taking it going in Vermont right now than what you're proposing.
This is the first one
Oh, this is the
of the
first
U.S. bike route system. There is a plan for another route that will go across Vermont in the northern half of the state. As yet, they haven't applied for bike route system status.
Okay, anybody else?
Sharon?
Yes.
If the board agrees, I would think a motion to authorize the manager to draft a letter based on, I have some of the background information that he's referenced in the packet. I would be glad to draft that letter on part of the board and sign it and send it on if you all agree.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you.
Just one question I meant to ask. Is there any potential funding for any of the improvements, or once you get that designation, is it open the door for any kind of grant potential?
There is some potential for grants. As you know, much of what we could have done would have been under the Transportation Enhancement Grants program that was a few years ago. As of MAP 21, that program no longer exists. However, the state of Vermont now is providing a fund for bicycle and pedestrian improvements. It's quite possible as we go along, we will be able to seek some of that money to assist us with the possibility of perhaps more off-road routes. We now use the D&H rail trail in Vermont for part of it, and we're hoping that there will be other trails developed that we can use as part of our route. We use the Burlington bike route, of course, as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
We'll get that letter to you as soon as we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so when you're done with your manager's report,
I am.
Any other business, Tom?
Do I have any other?
Yes. Do you have any other business?
No, I don't.
Okay.
In
Michael?
fact, I was-
No.
Justin?
I don't.
No?
Just want to express my condolences to Corcoran, entire Corcoran family. I've known Timmy since the first day I drew breath, and spoke to him almost every day. And when I spoke to him the other night, I expressed my wishes that there be some sort of memorial for Timmy, and Timmy would have none of it. But I think it's fair to say that no matter where I go in this town, for as long as I'm alive, all I'll need to do is look into the faces of the people of Bennington to see Tim's memorial for his hundreds of thousands of acts of kindness that he did for everyone. And finally, you know, there's a famous Irish saying, Erin go bragh, which means Ireland forever. And I just want to say, Corcoran, go bragh.
Thank you. Just a couple of things.
Sharon?
Yes.
Just one point, and I forgot to mention, it just came through today. The governor has authorized the lowering of all flags in Bennington County and all state, municipal, and local government authorities, schools and otherwise, from November 15th through the following Monday,
Okay.
in his honor.
Okay, thank you. The Veterans Parade is tomorrow at 11 o'clock. It starts at the middle school and goes to the Vets Home, just for everybody. And the winter parking ban goes into effect on the 15th. No overnight parking from 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. Until about the middle of March. And the only other thing I had that I wanted to bring up is, and I'm going to ask Dan to come up and comment on that. The Department of Homeland Security has put in the Federal Emergency Management Plan for the FEMA determination for the town of Bennington. And I believe they're getting ready to put those maps in place. So, Dan, if you could just come up and explain to the citizens what they need to do, if anything. And
Sure. This process actually started back in 2010, so it's been a long time. And a lot of folks have already been in to take a look at the new maps. Just back up, the FEMA has developed new floodplain maps which determine which properties need to buy flood insurance.
Did they amend those from the original ones that they?
Just the only thing they did, the only amendment they made was they recognized the levy as protecting people from floods. So anybody behind that levy, it doesn't have to buy flood insurance. Other than that, the maps are basically identical to what was originally put out back in 2010. If anybody wants to take a look at paper maps, we have those at the town office. They're also online at the Agency of Natural Resources site under the Resource Finder. And also there are state folks that we can direct you to if you want to get more information about flood insurance and grandfathering and all those sorts of things. And please feel free to call me at the town office, 802-442-1037. Be happy to help anybody who has questions. I think the main message I would like folks to get is if you currently are not in a floodplain and you are going to be in a floodplain when this becomes effective in 90 days or longer, it'll be at least 90 days, it is critically important for you to consider buying flood insurance before your property goes into the floodplain, because you will be able to buy flood insurance at an extremely low rate compared to what it will be once it goes into the floodplain. And the important thing about that is right now, under current law, could change, but current law right now is that you can pass that benefit on to a new owner. So in other words, if you buy flood insurance while you're not in a floodplain, if it does go into a floodplain, you can pass that low rate on to a new purchaser. So that's an extremely important benefit, and I urge everyone to talk to their insurance agent if they know they're going to be going into a floodplain. So we do have those maps at the town office. I can certainly direct you to a website so you can look as well on a computer just to get exactly the maps and how they play out. And like I said, please contact me at the town office, and my assistant Kelly also can show you those maps and also direct you to the website as well. So.
But they can also apply for a LOMA letter too, the letter of map amendment. It's costly to do that because they have to hire a...
Well, you'd have to prove that you're outside of the floodplain, and which is, these new maps are exceedingly accurate. So it's very unlikely if you're shown in the floodplain that you're going to be out of the floodplain.
The elevations are pretty accurate.
Because they flew what's called LiDAR. They use a laser, they bounce it off the ground, and they get extremely accurate elevation data. So I just think it's very important for folks who may be seeing a change in their floodplain status to consider buying flood insurance before that changes.
So as long as they don't let their insurance lapse?
Oh, that's another important thing. If you currently have flood insurance, don't let it lapse, yes.
But if they buy it at the lower rate?
As long as they don't let it lapse, under current regulations and current statute, they can carry on that benefit for themselves indefinitely, as well as pass it on to a new purchaser. Now, that has gone back and forth over the years, but current status, according to the state of Vermont, is that that benefit does exist for folks.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Having no other business, we do need to go into executive session for contracts. So I will entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Moving on to executive session.
All right, thanks. Do I have a second?
All in favor? Okay. I got to run.
Thank you.
Thank you.